Good morning and welcome to the Legacy Changemaker broadcast. I hope you have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and are going to enjoy our guest today. So, Legacy Changemaker is here to celebrate, connect, and inspire people who take action towards building a more peaceful, prosperous, people and planet-centered world. If you want to know more about us, please visit our website. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome the person who has inspired our previous changemaker. Our previous changemaker was Jess Hackett, and she has been inspired by Caty Batten. In her words, Caty Batten she describes Caty Batten as full of energy, compassion, and determined. She says Caty tackles difficult challenges heads on, and it's always determined to find a way and to find a solution. So, who is Caty Batten? Hello, Caty. Welcome.
Good morning.
So, Caty Batten is one of the co-founders of Intaconnected. And Intaconnected is a startup that is bringing to the world an engagement platform where each and every business can play part of building, of tackling climate change. Is that right, Caty?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So, on that note, what is the exact problem you're tackling in trying to solve the issue?
Sure. First, thanks for having me to speak, and thank you to Jess for her lovely words. Interconnected is a platform that's enabling any kind of business to play their part in the fight to save our planet, which is not just tackling climate change, but also ecological collapse and the loss of biodiversity and our waste and pollution issues. And effectively, the environmental crisis that humanity is facing is our greatest unique threat to the future of our survival right now. And people have known this for quite a long time. People have been talking about this for quite a long time. The science has evolved, and we now know that this is a very urgent crisis. And the nature of this crisis means that everyone needs to play their part, and people have to change. And we know that inherently people don't like to change, myself included. But it's become a core necessity. So Interconnected has been created to try to effectively find ways that we can really inspire change in people. And we're taking this to the workplace because we believe that business really does have the greatest capacity to solve this crisis and has the innovative solutions at hand and all the resources and effectively the power of people behind it to really make a huge amount of progress to help this crisis. And effectively, we have less than 9 years left to halve our global carbon emissions. We have less than 9 years left to achieve what scientists say we need to achieve in terms of protecting our oceans and our land. 30% by 2030 and 50% of our planet needs to be protected by 2050. That's not far away. It requires all of us to change, and there's a lot of discussion happening. Companies are starting to take notice. But most of them just don't know what to do or where to start. And it's perceived as it is a very complicated, complex issue in terms of all the things that need to be done collectively. But effectively, we need to break that down, and we need to break that down for people and help them see how they can change as individuals within the workplace. And so the way we want to do that is effectively to reconnect people and help them identify what their position is in that big problem, which is effectively very simple. Nature by its nature is a planet that exists in balance, and effectively humans have tipped that balance. So we've pushed it beyond the limits of what it can self-regulate, and we've removed nature's capacity to self-regulate at the same time as pushing the waste, the pollution, which never existed before humans on this planet. And effectively this, we believe, comes from human nature disconnect. And actually, interestingly, we all know that the rapid acceleration of this issue in the last sort of 70 years, 50 years, 20 years, 10 years, it's getting faster. So our actions and our change have to be faster. And there's an incredible bit of research that, very simply shows the decline since 1950 in nature-centric language within our popular culture. So within our pop songs or the books we read or the television programs. If you have a look at your own song playlist, just have a think about how many of those words are about nature. There's a really sharp decline since 1950. In parallel, there's a really sharp increase since about 1980 in the words in popular culture that reflect me, self, ego. And effectively that disconnect, that gap, has correlated with the way that humans have changed their perception of nature. And we've sort of lost our place in it and lost our balance. And that's what we want to address.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Such a beautiful mission. So can you please tell us a little bit more? What is the added value that you are bringing, that Interconnected is bringing, and what is the medium through which you're doing it?
Yeah, sure. Well, effectively through storytelling. There's stories to be told, so many stories to be told, both in terms of the way communities around the world have been impacted by this disconnect for a very long time. There's a story that we all know now. Every single person on this planet knows the story about COVID-19 and how that has impacted each and every one of us in each and every business around the world. The very foundations of our economy that has been the focus of the sort of the industrial growth that effectively has accelerated these issues, has all been stripped back to a level playing field where we know now what those negative consequences are of a human nature disconnect, which is essentially where COVID has come from. And so we want to effectively tell the stories to make it a very simple message. We simply need to plug that gap. We simply need to remember our place. We simply need to switch up the way we think about nature and have that respect, that regard, and effectively restore that balance between ourselves and nature. And not only to explain that the problems at a macro level, but most importantly, bring to life for everybody the stories about the solutions which exist, because there are so many amazing solutions out there. We know we can solve these issues, and that's the powerful thing. As my co-founder always says, this is actually the greatest opportunity humanity has ever had to make a change. It's all there. We just need to ourselves be, I guess, inspired and have the clarity around what we can each do. And that's what Interconnected is doing, bringing those stories from the real world into the workplace, helping people to be inspired by those stories and to be activated and motivated by them. And then if we help them to take the steps they need to put that change back directly out into the world.
Yes, yes. Now we're going to share one of the slides that you shared with us to really so that you can have a chance to really explain to our listeners and to our viewers, how are you bringing about the change? What are the roots of change?
I mean, yeah, thank you. This is a sort of a graph that we effectively base our series of virtual interactive workshops that we take our clients through. It's an emotional journey. It's an emotional issue. It's an experience, and evidence shows that pure experience is what really drives us to change. And it's about heads and hearts. Any business change needs to take its people with it, and it's about changing mindsets and behaviors. And that is absolutely critical. And so this journey that we've created, which is based on a lot of different experiences and research and evidence and support from partners that we work with on this. You'll see that over a series of 2 workshops, we're really taking people from the emotion of awe and wonder. So, we all think of a moment where we were inspired by nature and in awe at a something beautiful. And so taking people from that awe and wonder is really what drives that connection to nature and being grateful for her. But then, of course, we have to go down into this fear, this as we understand the problems and identify our contribution to that, it does make us fearful. It can be overwhelming. But the understanding of that is critical, and to have hope for that. And then to take people into that responsibility, accountability, to become aware of their actions within their company, and to see that unless we take action, we are all vulnerable. Business is vulnerable. We have to get that resilience. And by bringing the solutions to life and to the workplace, we really take people back up onto that journey of optimism, confidence, hope, and actually excitement. And we can all play our part today.
It's amazing how you start with awe and wonder, and you leave them at a place of excitement and hopefulness. It's really amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about the successes you've had thus far?
Yeah, sure. We're a startup, as you said, and so we're early in our journey, and the activation series is really the beginning of that journey. And we've piloted that with global corporations, and we've piloted it with micro businesses and some SMEs in the middle. And it's been amazing for us. We're really validating the types of stories we're telling, how we're delivering those, and to date, it has been a beautiful journey to watch and experience, and different reactions from different people within the companies, from those who really at the end of the first workshop are kind of blown away, and they really had no idea that this was a crisis, and they're not hearing about these stories in the world that they are living. Social media is feeding us what we choose to engage with, and so from people who say, wow, we had no idea, why don't we hear about these things in the news? So that's a very powerful, reason to be telling these stories, because it's not that everybody has experienced life the way I have, but it's also then people really who do already care, who are already awake at night worrying about these issues, being able to provide to them ways that they can sort of think about how to make a change in their company straight away. So we've had people saying, gosh, I'm very aware of this. We sort of know we want to do something, but we'd never considered how our pensions are being invested in work, and what the impact of those could be. And that's sort of something that's beyond your daily vision, beyond your four walls, but is a really important thing for people to think about how to change up, make sure that they're not indirectly contributing to this issue, because it's not enough just to look at what's in front of you. And of course, brilliant. Every single tiny step that people can take must be celebrated and rewarded. Walk to work instead of drive, switch up your energy supplier to be renewable. That's immediate impact. But there's also lots of other ways that are it's just providing that time, that space for people to have that creative thought, to be prompted by the stories that we're bringing them, and let them then think about the solutions that they know they can make, because only they know their company, and only every employee can know their daily job and how to switch that up for positive impact.
Amazing. While talking about the reactions of people, we got a question from one of our viewers. Her name is Michaela M. And she asks, when is the next workshop planned? Are these workshops accessible to the public?
It's a really great question, Michaela. And the startup world is a fast-paced one, and we have to keep reacting, but also stay focused. At the moment, we're working delivering these just with companies, bespoke to companies. And so, anyone can approach us, and what we encourage is anyone who thinks that their workplace may benefit from that, please reach out. But at the same time, whilst we're taking those solutions about the workplace, we know that secondarily will help people to understand what they can do in their own lives, but that there is actually another question for people about what can I do. So it is something in the future that we want as part of our mission as a social environmental enterprise to be able to deliver these publicly. So I think in the first instance, reach out, but it's we'd love to be able to offer these monthly for individuals to come and take part in too. So watch this space, and you've just made us think again about that. So thank you.
Great. So now that you have told us a little bit about the success stories, can you tell us what have you not yet managed? And maybe what have you even failed in not doing? or failed to do?
I guess for me personally, so many things. Interestingly, I've, a couple of other ways I wanted to bring change in the world, and had other ideas to start a business to help females travel more safely and so on. And I didn't get them off the ground. This one feels very different because it is just flowing at everything sort of when you decide to make a decision, and everything sort of the path opens up in front of you, and people come in and want to be a part of it. You know that that's the right path. So I feel like we're on it, but there's a long way to go. So we're at the beginning of that journey. By no means have we effected change yet, in terms of that real world impact. We're at the very beginning of activating people and helping them know what to do. So in a year's time, please come back, and we hope to be able to say that we have now done what we haven't yet done today, which is to drive that change all the way through. That story is yet to be told. But if another thing for me that I haven't yet done is to bring on this journey with me some of the very influential entrepreneurs and business leaders I was fortunate enough to work with and for a couple of years ago. And I think that is something that we haven't yet done, and we want to do, is to bring those sort of the big business leaders who really have that influence and that capacity to drive this across their organizations and have that public influence as well, will inspire other people to take on that journey and to understand the huge benefits that come for business of taking these actions today. So that is what we haven't yet done, but it's in plan. So again, watch this space.
So can you tell us a little bit about your past? Who have you met? Who have you worked with? Who are those leaders you're talking about?
Yeah, I feel so fortunate. My career has been very organic and very diverse. Working in youth entrepreneurship, and writing programs for young people, to taking groups of people on adventures around the world, cycling and hiking for an adventure travel company. And all of those groups of people we would take would be from companies or individuals who were wanting to take on a personal physical challenge, to raise money for a cause that they believed in and a change that they wanted to contribute to. So I guess, that was a very inspirational time for me, because everybody is there out of their comfort zone, pushing themselves for a cause, for a reason they want to bring about change. At the same time, visiting communities and hearing how other people in the world live, that has been inspiring for me. And then on the other spectrum, I then worked for Oxfam and was fortunate enough to be invited to bring the brand of Oxfam and introduce it to Switzerland, to the philanthropy sort of world, and meeting people at the other end of privilege, but who were determined also to create change. And I learned so much from that experience, and how effectively, the way people live in different ways, so many different ways across the world, actually we can bring all of that together. But for me, environment conservation has always been a passion. So I went to Mozambique and helped create a marine conservation foundation, and then mobilized the people who wanted to help create those changes and brought them virtually into our local village, and they helped us to create protected areas. But then I find myself in the world of entrepreneurs, and I worked for a well-known entrepreneur in the UK, Peter Jones, who has a foundation and an amazing mission to help young people aspire to be whoever they want to be. And that's where I got to meet and work with business leaders and CEOs and founders who simply wanted to share their stories about their own successes and failures in order to help people to step up and get to where they want to be. And that was also very inspirational for me. But of course, there's a disconnect in terms of that business, the mission of business, the purpose of business. And for me, I just wanted to bring into that the fact that every business needs to also contribute to positive change. And we can have that economic profitability and huge purpose in terms of the services and the products, but we also have business has this huge responsibility to all those people that I've met around the world, and all of us are going to be impacted by these issues. So that's sort of where it's all come together right now, inspired by everybody I've worked with and met along my very privileged life's journey.
We have one more question from Michaela, and she's asking, how did working for Oxfam, there we go, lead indirectly or directly to create this platform?
That is a great question. What are the values I transposed? so much values from Oxfam. Gosh, the power of storytelling. Gosh, so I worked for Oxfam mostly in Switzerland, Zurich, Geneva, and also here in the UK, where I'm based. And I would have to bring the stories from what is happening around the world in order to inspire people to listen and hear and want to support Oxfam. And I only once got to experience an Oxfam project in the field. So I guess I only realized this recently, but the power of the people who were having those experiences, my colleagues who were working on the front line in some of the most challenging contexts of humanitarian situations, or working and getting to understand the customer, the beneficiary, and how what their needs are on the ground, and how to bring that into something that would enable change by bringing together so many stakeholders. I guess that was probably the first time where I realized the power of people in collaboration, really bringing that need to the fore so that other people could really feel and understand that and get inspired by it and want to contribute. But in terms of sort of my experience with Oxfam, I learned so much so quickly, and about innovative finance models and how we can really sort of disrupt and accelerate the resources that are being attributed to the world's biggest problems. And that really inspired me, and it made me want to go to the field. So I then did do that in Mozambique. And then again, you have a next level of experience, and that drives you to more and more. And so there's also something for me about sort of validating, feeling like you have a legitimate story to tell. And all of that grew inside me, I think, from the moment I started working within Oxfam. So I felt that those stories were so real. You see how people respond, and you sort of feel that you are able to sort of bring about that change for yourself. So I guess for so many reasons, Oxfam has really taken me to where I am today, as have other roles since. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I hope so. At least I'm satisfied. I hope, Michaela, you are satisfied too with the answer. My next question to you is, given the ability to influence people from this today and now, what is the call to action that you would like to share with the world and with our viewers and with our audience?
It's very simple. At Interconnected, we just want people to reconnect with nature. We do that virtually, but my call to action personally is to invite everybody to take a moment to reconnect. Every day, it's so good for our well-being. We don't even notice whether we do or not. Have that nature connectedness. There's lots of little anecdotes, but one of our partners recently sort of shares a story. They're working with biodiversity, and did anyone even notice the moment where they stopped driving their car and had to wipe the insects off the windscreen? It doesn't happen anymore because they're not there. And it's something like that. It's actually a very powerful message, but we don't notice. So for me, it's about inviting everyone to take a moment to reconnect with nature. And there's some interesting research that also, what does nature connectedness mean? Well, it's not necessarily just being outside in green space at all. It's not the time in nature, it's the engagement with nature, be that direct or indirect. So when you're outside, even if it's for 5 minutes, try to listen to the birds. And I'm sure many of you do this already. Watch out for insects. Look at the patterns on the bark of trees. It's magical. And there are physiological and psychological well-being benefits just by noticing. But evidence, there's another research paper that was done, a survey in 2020 in England of adults, and the outcome was quite shocking and sad. And 70% of adults in this survey last year said they never stop to listen to the birds. They never stop to watch the butterflies. They never stop to notice the beauty of a flower. And it's purely by noticing and being inspired and having that particular emotions of awe and wonder and noticing beauty of nature makes us nature connected. And by being connected to nature, we are directly able to have pro-environmental behaviors that just happen from that connection. So wanting to recycle, or pro-conservation behaviors, if you're seriously nature connected, which means you want to go and volunteer and join a group locally and plant some trees or restore. You want to advocate for change. That simply can come from your connectedness, and that simply is from experiencing and noticing and engaging with nature, or watching beautiful documentaries or imagery. So that's just my call to action: is spend a little time and be inspired and enjoy.
Thank you so much. I love the message of starting with awe and wonder. Just stopping for a second and starting with awe and wonder. So, Caty, who has been your inspiration?
This is such a difficult question. So many people sprang to my mind. As I said to you, it's too tough to choose, but I did choose, and one lady, Kristen Forstinger, is the person that I have invited to speak. So Kristen has been a personal shining light, inspiration through work, through the way she lives her life. So I'm thrilled that everyone will get to hear from her next.
Yes, that's right. Everyone will get to hear from Kristen Forstinger next Friday. So please stay with us and come and join us next Friday to hear from her. This is all from us for the time being. Have a lovely day. Have a lovely weekend. Do start with awe and wonder. And thank you so much, Caty. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for sharing your message with the world. And thank you for inviting us to such a beautiful call to action. Everybody, have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.